transforming worlds to a better wonder to behold. No poverty, zero hunger for the elderly or younger. Good health and well-being, good education, empowering women to become sensation. Clean water, sanitation is a right of every nation. Economic growth inclusive and sustained through industry innovation and purely dedication. Yeah, infrastructure be gain, reduce inequality for sure, make human settlements secure, take urgent actions to combat climate change, conserve life below water and land, ensure we do not estrange. Justice for all the peaceful and empathetic nations. Let us all partner to achieve these goals and provide much needed salvation. Each one teach 10, no compensation. Each one teach 10, no compensation.
Good morning, good evening, namaste, hola, bonjour, kiremate, terve, and maraban. This is Namya Joshi, your host for the day. Welcome to episode 111 of the podcast, Each One Teach 10, An Amazing World of STEM, an inspiring venture where we'll be discussing that STEM is part of every day for every kid. We all will learn together how to build a STEM culture. Well, today's episode is a game changer, quite literally. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome a pioneer in the world of educational esports, Mr. James Fraser-Murison, the director of Fraser Esports. He's transforming how the world sees gaming, not as a distraction, but as a dynamic, skill-rich learning experience. Fraser Esports, that is owned by him, is the first company in the world to run the esports online BTEC, which he helped co-write, whilst his company also provides esports education and consultancy around the world. It is my absolute honor to have you here today, James. So, how are you doing today?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me on. It's a real privilege to be involved in this, and many congratulations for your work so far. You're a real inspiration, so it's good to be able to kind of properly catch up. And I think as we get into this conversation, we'll probably be able to tell the people watching that we're actually going to see one another in a couple of months' time in Kuala Lumpur as well. But many thanks for having me.
True, absolutely. So before we begin, how's the weather there where you are right now?
It is a rare moment in England where it's the summer and there's sun. So that's one of the reasons it probably looks so hot. It's 30 degrees, which I'm certainly not going to complain about, and it's very, very nice. So yeah, quite happy with this weather at the moment. Thank you.
That's pleasant to know. Unfortunately, yeah, it's really hot in India. I mean, that's every year, but okay, I understand. Thank you. All right. Take us back to the beginning. What did your early days in mainstream education look like? And when did you first realize that gaming could evolve into a powerful educational tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just stepped away from post-16 education here in the UK, which is what we call sixth form. So about 22, 23 years ago now, 22, I think. I started off teaching English, and then I was asked to teach media and creative media, and then film studies, and then along the way became heads of department a few times, a deputy head teacher, and eventually was very kindly asked to contribute to the first ever esports qualification, which is a BTEC, which is all about the esports industry. Whether that's the creative side of it or physical and mental well-being, computer programming, networking, setting up events and what have you. What it isn't is about making you a better player, because I wouldn't be able to do that. But it was very obvious very early on that if you cast your mind back to when all of us are very young and tiny, we learn through gamification anyway. It's that I think as you get older suddenly becomes a little bit more unfashionable and not something that's often talked about in education for progress and attaining grades or what have you for whatever silly reason. And so suddenly to be able to use that to get a qualification that's contemporary and exciting and relevant kind of brings me to where I am now, really.
True, absolutely. That's really well said. Like you said, you began your journey in education over 23 years ago, was really commendable. Initially teaching English before. True, but also a lot of experience before, gradually transitioning into creative subjects like creative media, film studies, BTEC courses, of course, esports. Over time, your portfolio expanded to include esports, programming, computer programming, event management, and that truly portrays that, the evolution in your belief in the power of creative and experiential learning, and that's
Absolutely,
how, you've been able to observe the impact of gamification in engaging students, especially when we get into high grades, because that's when we just don't have to know how to get marks, but also to learn that skills matter and how we have to use it ahead more meaningfully, and particularly be able to show the potential of games and esports as a transformative educational tool. Thank you for mentioning that. That's
of
great.
course.
So yeah, moving ahead to my next question for you. So you're the director of the first company in the world to run the online BTEC in esports. That's really amazing and groundbreaking. So I'm curious to know, what were the first few months like, and what challenges did you face turning the idea into a fully scalable model?
Yeah, absolutely. So because I was fortunate enough to know what was coming down the track by being involved in the BTEC itself, and then unfortunately having obviously the pandemic hit, it became more obvious to everyone that there's going to be an awful lot of young people that are not only disenfranchised because of the pandemic, but also because of the fact that lots and lots of people with increased anxiety here, there, and everywhere, or not able to attend mainstream for potentially physical or mental well-being reasons, we're missing out on this exciting course. So through the kind of connections I've made with Pearson, the exam board for the BTEC, I was able to be trusted with being able to deliver this through a school called Lenovo, which is an online school, and being able to give opportunities to students that wouldn't traditionally have that by not being in traditional mainstream school. So it was a little bit panicky at times. It took almost a year to get ratified and agreed, and work out how we would take something traditional, classroom based into an online format. And the first couple of weeks and months were scary in the sense that would the students turn up? Were they engaged? Would it work having content delivered online only? All sorts of kind of things that you worry about but don't necessarily have control over. But actually it proved to be quite popular and worked. There's always things that we can reflect on and do better, of course. But I'm really pleased to be able to be involved in a world's first. On top of that, I was fortunate enough to win a national award for innovation as well through the Sixth Form Association here in the UK. So it was nice to be able to build up on that as well.
Well, wow, that's congratulations on that national award, absolutely. And you mentioned like during the early days of launching, you were able to navigate through an uncharted territory that was, made even complex by the backdrop of the global pandemic, the COVID-19. And at a time when many young people were feeling disconnected, anxious, and disengaged from the traditional schooling, the innovative approach that you brought in was both a risk but also a lifeline. And transitioning from
Absolutely.
a conventional classroom setup to fully online mode did raise questions for you, that would it work well? Would students, be able to respond well to it? But despite the uncertainties, it actually, like you said, worked out as an amazing initiative. And it totally gained popularity, proving that with the right vision and tools, esports could offer a very scalable and engaging education solution, even when we're in the most challenging times. So that is a proof of how esports can be transformational. Thank you for sharing that. So with Fraser Esports providing consultancy and education globally, how do you ensure cultural relevance and adaptability across such diverse learning environments?
So I've been very lucky through Fraser Esports to effectively race around the world and speak on topics that I enjoy. This year alone, I've been to Norway twice, Lisbon, Portugal, Barcelona, and just recently returned from Texas last week, in fact. And all of those unique places are, as you've kind of put in the question, very different kind of cultures, processes, things to kind of take on board and understand. And so the more trips I do, the more I kind of have to obviously be aware of what I'm walking into. But there's two ways to approach it, really, as a consultant and as someone who talks about the benefits of this, particularly with STEM intentions. A consultant is in essence paid to obviously have an opinion on what they're being asked to share their input and knowledge on, and or on top of that, they'll be given a brief or a project to work towards from the client themselves. So for the most part, the benefits of esports and its intricacies with STEM learning kind of take care of themselves. There's some really obvious parallels with what the World Education Forum recognizes as sought after skills, and also what therefore you can elicit from esports. Specifically when it comes to the diversity of it, when it comes to whether you'll be able to do some research and make some of the teams they're going to research, or some of the things they're going to create relevant to local teams or national teams in-house, in country in this instance, then it's about doing your due diligence before you get out there. It's about making sure you know what you're going to kind of walk into, and also always ask. If you don't know, then ask the people that are going to be working alongside you. Ask them what it is that they want as an objective as well, and ultimately make sure that we continue to make everything accessible and relevant to everyone. And from a purely online perspective, we are able to make this accessible to everyone, because where you can, you need some half decent Wi-Fi and perhaps only a mobile device, which obviously not everyone has, but it does mean we can approach, help and support more people than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you've said, Fraser Esports expanded its reach globally. You emphasized the importance of understanding and respecting diversity of cultures and also educational systems that you're able to engage with, and recognizing that no two regions approach learning in the same way.
Absolutely. I mean,
And
wherever I
you're
go, I'm always the minority. Sorry, apologies for overlapping you there, but
no
it's
worries.
worth bearing in mind that I am. I'm a company of one at the moment, I guess. So I'm going to be surrounded by Norwegians. I'm going to be surrounded by people from Austin, Texas. I'm going to be surrounded by people who live in country in Singapore. I am always the minority, and it's important that you kind of remember that and don't forget that when you're going to deliver. Otherwise, you can come unstuck and look quite insensitive quite quickly, I'd imagine. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when, you are able to, press the importance of adaptability, ensuring that, the programs remain relevant and meaningful across various contexts. And as you said, a key part of the strategy involves giving learners a voice and projects, of course, to work towards. That basically is able to allow connect personally with the content. And I really like that you mentioned about the core elements like STEM, which are consistently embedded in your offerings. And of course, the approach to esports is intentionally very flexible. And of course, when you talk about diversity, is not just acknowledged, it's actively celebrated. That makes your platform a very dynamic and inclusive force in global education. And of course, the key is here diversity, be able to adapt and be able to engage with others so that they're able to get your point and you're respecting theirs as well.
Yes, absolutely. That is one of the key kind of factors to do anything, I would hope, on any scale, but particularly with an education focus, I think.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. So, for educators who are listening to us right now, who might still view esports as just a pastime, how would you reframe esports as a serious, skill based educational discipline?
Well, with each passing academic year, there are more students that are able to go and take the skills that we give them into a global industry worth over $3.5 billion, depending on what you look at. I believe in a term, essential skills. I don't agree with soft skills as a term. I find it a little bit sort of detrimental for what we're trying to achieve. And essential skills from studying things like esports can be communication and problem solving, logistics and team play. And they are consistently skills that the World Economic Forum says are needed for the workplace. And some of those skills also are relevant and lend themselves to a traditional STEM approach as well. And we could, of course, talk about STEAM. We can add the arts into that if we wish, but it's being able to actually go and do a little bit more research and delve into a little bit more about what it is that we actually teach. We're not, as I said at the start, making anyone a better gamer, but what we are is giving them an understanding and a portfolio that they can take into the next step. And whether people choose to acknowledge it or not, that's entirely up to them. We never make anyone do anything. If you don't want to do esports, don't do it, but go and have a look at what it is. Go and have a look at the case studies of happier, successful young people where they, 99% of them will game in some form or another, either on their own or with their friends or both. And as long as everything's done in moderation, then actually this is an opportunity to combine, I think, as I said earlier, something contemporary and relevant and engaging and, dare I say, fun. And fun is often forgotten within education, but it's predominantly the thing that will drive people through the process quicker and faster and better than anything else. It's a reason to come back to things, I think, if you enjoy something. And as I say, where we can tie that into the World Economic Forum reports and other reports and what have you that are out there that positively reflect the essential skills these young people are getting, then actually I have to say very little, because I say, well, look, if you don't want to believe me, go and read this, go and read this, go and read this, go and read this. And I think that's where that's quite powerful, I think.
True that. And I agree with the part when you said fun is the element right there, because when you're able to enjoy something, you're able to be passionate about it. And that is what helps you to get into that field professionally. And
Yeah.
of course, esports is not just about playing games. It's about that, a gateway, like you rightly said, the World Economic Forum quotes us as a 3.5 billion global industry and a powerful platform for developing essential life skills and workplace skills. Because I also totally believe that more and more students are stepping into this field, not just as the players, but as analysts, developers, strategists, content creators. And through esports, they're able to engage with the 4C's 21st century skills. And of course, gaining those technical proficiencies which are tied to the STEAM disciplines.
Yeah, absolutely.
True, and it's all about nurturing our research skills, our digital fluency, how we're able to align perfectly with the demands of the modern workforce. So, I think to sum it up, it's about the skill-based educational discipline that is not just seeing esports as a distraction, but is helping them to understand the essence behind competitive gaming and what exactly the future holds for them.
Yeah, and I think it's still, in the grand schemes of all things education, sort of education-based, this is still relatively new. And people were detrimental and disingenuous towards plays, cinema, film, chess. Everyone just needs to potentially calm down a little bit, because esports is being paid to play professionally. We're talking to you and teaching you about the industry. That is the disconnect. We can do wonderful things here, but we're not necessarily going to make you a better player. And we're doing this, we're not doing that, but you think we're doing that. So you just got to juggle these things, but that's fine. It's kind of part of the fun. And when I pitch up in various places, that tends to be one of the first questions that gets asked, which
Absolutely.
which you can see. So, yeah.
True that. So if we're talking about esports, I'm curious to know, what's your favorite game that you've played till date?
There's a few. I did get a little bit kind of really zoned into Minecraft a long time ago, but I have an 11-year-old son who is mad about Fortnite, and I mean it happens less and less now because he's getting older and it's no longer cool to game with your dad, but I've spent a good couple of years gaming with him, and I've fallen for the lore and the origin stories and the progress, and I get just as excited as he does with updates and releases, and it's been really good to share that journey with him, and watch him get excited about this, that, and everything else. And that's something that we're always going to share, and we will always have together. So that's brought a lot of silliness and a lot of fun, occasional arguments, but for the most part fun. So it's been nice to kind of grow up with that. So I'd probably say now Fortnite, to be honest, even though I'm 43. But Fortnite, I guess.
That's amazing. I too love to play Minecraft, but I'm also, very keen about playing the storyboard games, which, they keep you all interactive and also hooked onto what might be the next one. I know about the Harry Potter, I think the game that was just launched maybe a year or two ago. It has the entire 7-year gameplay. Quite interesting, to be honest.
I've done the Harry Potter game with my son, where you get to run around Hogwarts and then get a broom and you do the challenge, stuff like that, things like that. I do, if I rarely get time to game myself, my escapism will be game-based narrative, so single player, and I just follow a story and then kind of reach the end however I wish to reach the end. But if you look at, and this is more to do with gaming and less esports, but as a sort of, if we go off on one slightly here, the characters and the voice acting and the script writing and the development and the level design and the code and all of that goes into this AAA game product that people see, it's incredibly complex. And it's good that they've now got Game BAFTA awards and the dialogue for some of these characters, because of based of all the multi-choice, the script writing that must go into that, and the weaves that are dotted around here, there, and everywhere is a true talent as well, and something that is also occasionally mocked by those that don't know any different. But I'm very passionate about them as I say, as an escapism.
True, and that also brings out the part that how many opportunities gaming offers you. Like you said, script writing, there's game designing, a lot of part that goes into voice acting as well. There are a lot of parts that come into the gaming side, not just playing, but also designing.
Yeah.
True. So you've also wear the hat of mentor in esports education space. How do you ensure that mentorship becomes a multiplying force other than just a one-time interaction?
That's an interesting question. I think it's a bit of a cliche to say, but I think you always, so if you go back to the question about when I appear in various regions around the world, it's remembering you're in a minority, but also it's worth, where possible, making sure you're never the smartest person in the room, which I'm not ever, so that's handy. But it's knowing that you've got X amount of talent or X amount of passion, and ideally both, wherever you go, and therefore rely on them, inspire them where you can, motivate where you can, but ultimately use their energy and their knowledge and their passion to sort of become mentors or mentor of them. I mean, esports and gaming is interesting because by far of all the subjects I've taught, it is the younger people that know just as much, if not more, than the older people at this stage, because of the approach of dichotomy around it all at the moment. And I think being a mentor can mean different things to different people, but it's ultimately, you boil it down to role models or examples. And if you can find them, you should praise them. And you don't have to give them that badge of you are a role model, you are a mentor. It could be a little bit more informal from that. And I think anywhere where you can find an opportunity to learn from others and lead as well is hopefully grows potentially organically now in this exciting space.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. In such a space where you have to focus on networking, collaborating with more people, I totally believe in the part that even though how much knowledge we may possess, may be passionate about a lot of things, one must always be open to learning from like-minded people. And of course, that mindset creates a very collaborative and empowering environment where even the person next to you who is speaking to you or who is listening to you is feel seen and heard. And that is what also motivates them to take ownership of their own journeys. So you're able to tap into their energy, their passions, and able to ensure that as a mentor, it goes beyond just a single conversation. It is able to
100%.
share a lot with them, learn from them, and be able to uplift them alongside you. I really like that approach.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. That's it.
Yep,
That's kind of case in point, right? There's so many different ways of doing it. It's what makes it a bit fun, I think.
true that. We have a lot of comments coming in. Hello, Mr. James. Welcome to the most awesome podcast show. Thank
It
you.
is, yes.
Thank you,
Hi,
Mr.
nice to meet you.
Praveen. Yep. Congratulations on the national award by Miss Monica.
Thank you very
She'll
much.
be
That's
there
very kind of
too
you.
at the
Thank
BET
you.
show.
Oh, will she? Oh, okay.
alongside-
Well, it's always nice to receive a national award. So thank you, Monica. I'll try my best.
Thank you. She also said that we really love taking part in the NASEF during pandemic. Yep, I used to create those Rube Goldberg machines and simple machines. It was a new learning experience for me. So yeah, it was an
It's great
amazing
fun. Well,
opportunity.
I was the first non-American to join NASEF.
Ooh,
So that's quite
kudos to you.
cool. I know lots of people working within NASEF and now outside of it as well, and it's done by some incredibly talented and passionate people there as well, and it is pretty cool stuff. So it's good that you also benefited from that as well.
Absolutely. And also she was saying that for the first time in India in schools, we had an esports for the annual fest, Saturn Innovation Fest at Satpur Middle School, India. So the Saturn Innovation Fest is like an innovation fest. Like I graduated from this school just a few months back. So it's a near like fest that is held that focuses upon entrepreneurship and gamification. And this year,
cool.
esports was one of the themes.
Excellent. Where did I go in India? When did I go to India? 2021, I think. I wasn't fully involved in esports then, and we went for a community project for 2 weeks, and we went down into various villages and schools and what have you. But one of the common threads and opening conversations after the various things involving football would be a gaming chat or a conversation on esports. So truly global, I guess, wherever you go. It's pretty impressive stuff.
True. And to sum it up, esports, love what you do and do what you love. That deserves a t-shirt of its own.
Yes, I'll get on board with that 100%. I'll get a tattoo.
Amazing. Sounds good. Yeah, we've had a very engaging conversation today. So looking back on your 23 years plus years in education from mainstream classrooms to global esports stages, what's one message that you would sum it up and would like to give to the audience listening to you right now?
I am, what did I say? I was 43, right? So I started this esports journey when I was 30, 38, 39, I guess now. So it's taken me late 30s, shall we say, to come out of mainstream education as a head of department, which I also enjoyed and loved, but not as much as I love and enjoy this. As I say, I'm able to fly around the world and various continents here, there, and everywhere. And as I say, I was in Texas last week, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I worked a traditional Monday to Friday in school. So I'm lucky because, yes, I work hard. Work hard and play hard are two pretty important things to follow, I would say. But it does kind of boil down to that cliche of do what you love. And I love what I do. So whether you discover that at 50 or 48 or 33 or 20, it matters not. I think if you are lucky enough to discover it whenever you discover it, then do that, I think, for as long as you can.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for giving that message. And thank you for this phenomenal and forward-thinking conversation. And your work is a very powerful reminder that education must evolve with the world, and in your case, with students love games. So to all the educators, innovators, and change makers tuning in, let's remember that education is no longer confined to classrooms and textbooks. It's able to thrive when skills meet passion and when curiosity is able to meet the community. So thank you so much, Mr. James, for this lovely conversation and for being on my podcast.
It's been a real pleasure and a real honor, and thank you so much for your time. It's nice to meet you all.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining and listening to the episode. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, each one, teach 10. Have a nice day.
Bye.